strong looking than ever. Swear to God. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. If you didn't figure, I was talking to my own reflection. So I've got my preview right in front of my face here. Right. And I swear to God, this hair is doing a madness. Doing an absolute madness. But tell you what is also doing a madness is at this stage, at this moment in time, thinking that we're going to play against Tottenham Hotspur and beat them convincingly. That would be complete and utter madness. There's nothing to say that we are. There's nothing to say that we won't either. But in real talk, that's what we like to do here is be real. Um, it's not looking it's not looking too good. Off the back of two draws, once against Palace where we played reasonably well but hit couldn't shoot shit. Literally stormtrooper aim, stormtrooper accuracy. It was long, it was peak, and then an absolute disaster class in midweek against Twente. Um, yeah, a team that is probably roughly about an Ipswich level, maybe better, maybe slightly better. But yeah, it was a bit of a disaster class midweek, and it's not as I had anticipated. Potentially, that game being a more of a confidence boosting game, it's done the opposite. It's rather destroyed our confidence going into Sunday, and we don't like to see that. We don't like to see that. It doesn't, knowing this team, knowing these players, not winning games tends to play on the mind across a longer period of time, and especially in the games as well. If you go down a goal, people tend to see United drop levels or drop gears. Um, which, to be absolutely fair, we've not sort of conceded a goal and then absolutely just like gone here by completely just out of the game 100%. Kind of like us scoring goals, we've not really conceded goals straight afterwards. That's a trend that's also stopped, which thank goodness for that, because it definitely means that there's much less reason to predict that if we ever win a game, it's only by a 1 goal margin. So if we score 5 goals, it's because the opponents have scored 4. Like, we don't have to have those sort of conversations anymore, which is a nice change. It's a welcome change. We welcome that. But I'll tell you what, though, it's an interesting spectacle to look at, because you've got Tottenham fans as well on the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin, talking about Tottenham Hotspur, bit all over the place at times. Sometimes they do some good, and other times there's just sort of like you're pulling your hair out again. And Ange Postecoglou has almost had to go back to the drawing board a little bit with how he sort of plays football. A little less about all just balls to the wall possession, high press, high lines, and everything, but a little bit more settled down, right? Just tactically settled down just a little bit. But then it comes more or less at the sacrifice of having so many clear cut opportunities, or so many, um, you know, win the ball high up the pitch scenarios where you generate a factory of chances. It's chance creation factory. But Manchester United, um, that's a different kind of threat. I mean, Liverpool, probably the last team that we've played that generates a huge amount of chances, and yeah, look how that turned out, and that's just with a little bit of quality. So, Man United up against Tottenham, there's a lot of big question marks about in terms of the midfield lineups and how that's going to be set up, and essentially in turn what happens with the midfield, then also what happens to the defence in retrospect. Now, hopefully, with the defences back to normal, back to the usual standard with the likes of Martinez and Do It as your centre back partnership, and not trying to to fist Maguire into the team, and ultimately fisting ourselves with all sorts of issues and a crappy style of play, and opening all sorts of Moses parting the seas um, in midfield. We can't afford for that to happen. We need to go about things, you know, doing things the right way in terms of team selection. You know, you could say eyes entirely on the manager. Eyes are completely on the manager here. He's got to get all sorts right to really give us much, if any, chance at all in this game. And I think the biggest focal point in terms of starting positions has got to be that midfield. It's got to have the right level of quality and balance. Um, and I think in terms of where the chance creation is going to really come from, like who's going to be in charge of that? Is he going to pick Bruno? Is he going to drop Bruno? Um, what's going to happen? Because Ericsson again scored midweek, but then also was massively to blame for conceding the goal. Does he end up starting in midfield again, or do we actually? Does he put two and two together and realise, well, actually Ericsson in a compromised position is actually pretty bad. Like he's pretty shit in bad positions, but that's just it. They are bad positions, so why would you put Ericsson in those situations? Um, yeah, for me, if you want to play Ericsson, be my guest, but play him in the right position rather than 6/8. Put him in number 10, because one thing I'll tell you right now, Bruno's completely out of form, completely out of form. He doesn't look like his execution has any conviction. Doesn't look like he's really busting a gut to to cover for his shortcomings on the offensive, and that's a big question mark with Bruno as well, because I see people saying, well, can't question his work rate. Well, we've seen a couple of times this season where Bruno in defensive capacities, he's not running as much. He's not really getting all that stuck in, um, and then to lack much going forwards is just doubles down, makes it even worse. And people will throw the stat book at you, say, "But look at the chances he's created." And I'll throw this. I'll take the stat book. I'll rub my face, because throwing a book at somebody's face tends to hurt. But then I'll set the book on fire and I'll say, your stats do not matter in the sense that everyone else perhaps gets hindered by his presence on the pitch when he stops playing well. And that, I think, is something we need to really look into. Because if Bruno's ticking and he's doing all of his stuff, it's great. The amount of times he assists, the goals he may score, the key passes, key chance creation, sets everybody else up. But when he disappears, so does everybody else. Everybody else disappears. And the thing is usually you think, oh, well, it's important for him to get played. No, what's important is you take him out of the firing line and put somebody else who might be able to do the job in place to get things ticking, to get things moving. When Bruno's off it, when he's off the pace, it can cause problems everywhere else on the pitch. And people talk about, well, style, the style of play. I think, regardless of what people think about their perceptions on the style of play, I think first and foremost, the fundamental to what Ten Hag wants is possession. If he wants control of a game, he wants the possession. He wants players who are patient with the ball, patient, good bit of technique to it, and they see what other players wouldn't. Bruno is the sort of player to know that he should play a 5 yard pass to keep the state of flow with the team going, and decide, actually, there may, not there is, but there may be a 50-yard crossfield ball that's on. So he will look to play this ridiculous ball or something that's a lot more direct. The synergy of the team just disappears because everybody else is playing to play a slower, more gradual build up. Bruno's just route one. And I don't know why that is. Why, the fact that everybody else is playing more passively, but there Bruno is on the same team, training with the same players every week, playing a different style of play as an individual. I don't know if there's like a, I don't know if there's a fallacy to the rule of his contract or something like, oh, this contract's to make you the big boss of the players in the team, and oh, you're to impose um, the manager's standards and his ideas, and you're to keep everybody in check, in line, and then you'll see him doing complete polar opposites to what the manager will probably ask on the football pitch. There's something not right there. But there's two ends that are pushing against each other. They're not opposite ends of a magnet here. They're both the same ends. They're pushing. There's a pushing force going on here. Never to really connect. So you've got to ask, well, where do you create the disconnect and fix the circuit? Where do you go? And I think that midfield needs to be looked at. It's got to be looked at because, games get won and lost in midfield. I think that's a very, very recycled term, but doesn't make it any less true. Bruno in that midfield, when he plays well, team does well. When he doesn't, everyone suffers, and that can't happen. You can't allow for that to be the case. And people might say, well, maybe that's just, that's just you're trying to say that Man United are a one-man team. Not at all. It's just when he stops playing bad, when he starts to play bad, the cause to effect, right? Bruno playing bad, there's your cause. The effect of him playing bad forces everybody else to drop levels because the play is different in direct nature, in style. It's like it's lost in. It's like a game of Chinese whispers. It just changes every time, but the message is not. The message isn't the same by the time it comes around to the final third. Everybody is on the same wavelength, from goalkeeper to defence, defence into defensive midfield, defensive midfield into Bruno, Bruno into goal. What happened to the winger? What happened to the fullback? What happened to the other midfielders? What happened to the striker? What happened to everybody else? What happened to all the other steps that every other team or creative player in the team takes to create the chance that makes the opposition have less of the ball, but equally concede the better chance? Like, it's like Bruno's just trying to skip steps, like out of a 10-step process. Bruno gets the ball comes to Bruno in like step 6, and you think, like shifting gears in a car, I'm going to step up to step number 9 or step 10 from step 6. What about 7? And what about 8? Those step 7 and step 8 are just as important as every other step that you make. So, yeah, to me, the midfield has got to be massively looked at, and we've got to ensure that the balance has gotten right. And then on top of just the starting 11, the substitutions that he makes on Sunday have got to they've got to hit the mark because we can't afford to allow for the game as it did against Palace to get away from us. We need to have players constantly on it, on the ball, constantly giving top notch work rate, not slowing down, not being lethargic, not falling asleep. Concentration's got to be to the max. And I'm not talking about you know getting pickpocketers to go around Carrington to keep players on their feet. No, we're talking about just staying awake in the game for every challenge at every minute of the game because the opposition of Tottenham, though you know they're sort of mean material so far this season, and hopefully they continue to become more and more mean material. They're still Tottenham Hotspur with players that can hurt you. They can, they can, they genuinely can. So Manchester United has to be awake for that. They have to be ready for that. And I don't know if Man United are ready for it. I don't know if they are or how they are going to survive. And it's not just talking about Tottenham here, but we've got a whole host of other games after that don't get any easier. I mean, Porto and Villa away for the next two fixtures after Sunday. Those are probably, if anything, harder. Both of them are probably hard. So if we can't pass this test, I don't know what test really in the near future that we are going to pass. So, so yeah, um, big problems there. Big problems. So yeah. But anyways, as far as the team selection goes, if I were to be elected as manager tomorrow, and they told me, "Hey, Buzz, pick the starting 11 for Sunday," I'm probably looking at an Arnold in goal. I think it's obvious that we're going to have Delo left back, Masrai right back, De Ligt and Martinez as your two centre backs because that's the best performing defensive back line so far this season, and has to continue with going from strength to strength. Defensive midfield, I would probably go with the Mainu Ugarte. I think Mainu and Ugarte, two players that I think would want to work hard for each other, and I think in various aspects can complement each other well. Um, and I think if you want to sit deep, play a back six at any point for any reason in the game, I think that's a back six you can probably trust. Ahead of them, Ericsson, fine goal scoring forward. Play him. Play him in the number 10 and drop Bruno to the bench. Because that man is out of form. Ericsson is definitely not a player for legs, so I think guaranteed you'll probably have to end up making that substitution at some point in about probably the 60th, between 60 and 70th minute. Probably Ericsson will come off because you want to have the legs to upkeep in chance creation, to upkeep the intensity. So yeah, I think what we're going to have to go with um, in the front three, I think it's a difficult one because it's like Garnacho, Rashford, both in sort of similar stages, similar positions. I would probably go with Garnacho in this one. I just would. Um, More variation in in his ability, I think. Um, just offers more differentiation in attack. If he's not taking a man on, he's passing the ball. If he's not passing the ball, he's popping in a cross. Yeah, there's all sorts that he can do and that he's willing to do. I think Ahmed on the right hand side is a foregone conclusion. I think has to start as well. Similar story with him on the right, and then play with Xerxes up top. That's the team that I would go with because Xerxes, no Hoyland's fit and available, but for me Xerxes is imperative to creating the chances for the other attackers. But I also think that having a player like Ericsson will give Xerxes more time to get into better positions rather than playing things too early or too straightforward and direct. Yeah, you're taking a bit of extra time to allow for players to play into position, move into the right areas. So that's my go-to team. Let me know if you guys would agree with that in the comment section. And as for a scoreline prediction, I mean, it's there's all sorts of scorelines that can happen. For me, I will probably. Do you know what? I'll probably go with a 2-2. I'll go with a 2-2 in this one. I don't really see Man United out and out favourites to get the win, but I'm more likely to see Tottenham destroy us completely at Old Trafford than I am for Man United doing anything vice versa. I think draw probably the most likeliest result, but in terms of actually like winning or losing, I think Tottenham probably actually come to this one, funnily enough, as favourites, which is crazy to think. Genuinely crazy to think. But I genuinely do think that they come to this with as favourites. Um, but yeah, let me know if you guys would agree with that. Do you think the Spurs are the team to the team to beat in this fixture, or do you think Man United are more than viable to take all 3 points on Sunday? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. Make sure as well to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content here, and of course if you'd like to see more going forwards on the road to 300 subscribers. So if we can get things chugging along nicely, that would be fantastic. On 218 so far, so big ups to everybody that has subscribed, and of course um, continuing on our journey with the content creation. It's a long journey. It's a long journey, but I think it's very much worth the while when you do put the heart and soul into it. Um, and you know what? I would kind of like to do this full time. Can't even imagine doing it at all full time until like miles down the line. You know. Maybe that's the target if it becomes realistic. But for now, it's a hobby. It's a hobby that when we do it, we love to do. When we're not doing it, we're sad, we're miserable and depressed. But nonetheless, always coming back for more. For me and for you. So big thank yous to everybody that does support the channel and supports the content and all good things such as. So yeah, big ups to everybody. We'll be back again on Sunday definitely with match reaction. Probably have to be after work. Don't know about anything Sunday night takeaway. They might have some alternative out there, but if not, then I'm sure that's something that we can do or factor in. Perhaps instead of a match reaction, we do a weekend reaction where I will talk about my game, the game on Sunday, as well as other key fixtures on the weekends, and perhaps we can invite some people on for that as well, just to sort of give multiple viewpoints and verdicts on the fixtures also. So yeah, let me know if you guys would like to see that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday nights, and yes, perhaps we might have something on Saturday, but haven't got anything pending or planned. But if somebody else invites me, then let's see. That's it. Until then, take care, and speak to you again soon.